Welcome back to the deep dive. So, we've got a mountain of source material in front of us today, and I have to say, this stack is about as heavy as it gets. Our job, as always, is to distill it down to what you really need to know.
And this material is not for the faint of heart. We're looking at a series of classified excerpts from the National Resilience Playbook, the NRP 2025. Along with that, we have some very detailed situation reports, SI TREPs, and operational directives.
All focused on critical infrastructure defense. But the core of what we're doing today is analyzing this threat of what they call digital and kinetic convergence. And it all stems from one vulnerability, React 2 shell.
Right, and this isn't some theoretical 30,000-foot view. The sources are very specific.
Incredibly specific. This whole deep dive is customized, focusing its entire lens on one area of operations, or AO, the Rogue Valley, right there along the I-5 corridor in Southern Oregon.
Which makes our mission here extremely practical.
Exactly. It's about figuring out what these documents say about surviving the moment the digital world, completely fractures.
And the source material gives us two very clear objectives. First, we have to analyze what they call the gray man signatures for personnel from the Aionios Vanguard. That's the local operational command.
The idea being they need to blend in, to be invisible.
Completely. And we have to cross-reference the TTPS, the tactics, techniques, and procedures of state-sponsored groups like China's Volt Typhoon with that local environment.
And the second objective, which feels like the real heart of the mission today, is to synthesize 5 mandatory, actionable, analog deconfliction protocols.
The handshakes.
The handshakes. How you coordinate with friendly forces, blue for law enforcement, green for local militias, when all your digital comms are down, when you can't trust your phone, your radio, anything.
And the central theme, and it's on every page of these NRP excerpts, is this massive shift, a shift away from a reactive national posture to something totally different, a distributed resilience model.
It's an admission, really.
It is. The sources basically confirm that we've reached a breaking point and we have to prepare for the kinetic snap.
That's the key phrase, the kinetic snap. The moment a digital fracture becomes a physical collapse.
We're looking for the analog anchor points in a world that's gone hyper-digital, the ultimate redundancy plan.
Okay, let's unpack the core problem right here at the start. Systemic national contagion. It's a term the sources use repeatedly, and it's not hyperbole.
Not at all. It's the logical endpoint of building a society based on hyper-efficiency. We're completely dependent on just-in-time logistics on these deeply interconnected digital systems.
And that very thing, that efficiency and velocity, is now our single greatest fragility.
The playbook calls this interconnected web the nation's nervous system. And, if you have a nervous system, a fracture anywhere can paralyze the entire body.
And the source of that fracture is React 2 shell. The official designation is CVE 2025-55182.
And the sources don't mince words about this. This isn't some medium severity bug you can just patch and forget.
No.
Absolutely not. The intelligence rates React 2 shell as a CVSS 10.0.
Which, for you listening, that's the highest possible rating. It's the equivalent of a Category 5 hurricane. Catastrophic.
It denotes a catastrophic flaw. It is a structural failure in the very foundation of modern web infrastructure, specifically impacting systems built using React server components.
Let's spend a second on the technical side, because we can't just gloss over insecure deserialization. It sounds dense, but if you understand it, you understand why the threat is, well, existential.
It is. It exploits a process in React server components called the flight protocol. So think of it this way. When you load a web page, the server sends a complex instruction set, like a recipe, back to your browser.
Okay.
Deserialization is the process where your browser takes that raw external recipe and reconstructs it into a runnable program. You're basically letting an external source dictate the internal structure of your system.
And the danger is, if that reconstruction process isn't locked down tight, a bad actor can send a crafted recipe that says, hey, instead of building a button, just run this arbitrary code for me.
That is it, exactly. The adversary crafts a malicious HTTP request. They might embed some weird patterns like BASIC markers or change an internal flag to something like status resolved model.
And the server just executes it.
The server reads this malformed payload, and instead of rejecting it, it runs the unauthorized commands. That's remote code execution, or RCE. And the terrifying detail is that it often requires zero authentication.
No password, no user clicking on a bad link.
Nothing. A simple automated probe can find the flaw and get deep inside a network.
And the sheer scale of the exposure is what elevates this from just a bug to a global contagion.
It's massive. We're talking an estimated 39% of cloud environments globally.
39%. And the sources get specific for the U.S. Over 77,800 exposed domains.
Yeah. And the speed with which this was weaponized is maybe the most damning part. The disclosure date was December 3rd, 2025. Malicious exploitation started within hours, which confirms pre-positioned intent. State-sponsored actors were either sitting on the zero day themselves or they had automated tools ready to go the second it became public.
And these are known actors: Earth Lamia, Jackpot Panda, UNC 61295. And they're using this to get long-term placement inside our critical infrastructure.
Exactly, which is how we connect that digital flaw to the national interdependency realities of 2025. So what happens when a global RCE vulnerability hits the grid?
Let's look at the sectoral risks laid out in the NRP 2025. It gets kinetic very, very fast.
It does. Let's start with energy. It's rated critical. And the primary fragility isn't just software, it's the physical replacement cycle.
Right.
If cyber manipulation causes a frequency drop or system overload, you burn out essential hardware, like those huge transmission transformers. The source material states, unequivocally, that transformer delivery schedules now exceed 4 years.
Okay, let's just pause on that. A 4-year window. That means if a major transformer in the Western grid gets fried today from a React 2 shell attack, that part of the grid goes dark for 48 months, minimum.
Yeah, that number is staggering.
It completely eliminates the idea of surge capacity. There's nothing to surge with.
It creates a permanent, non-recoverable kinetic loss that was triggered by a purely digital event. And the sources are clear on the failure threshold. If grid frequency drops below 59.5 hertz, protective relays just trip. They take the components offline automatically.
And with no spares in the warehouse, those areas just cease to function.
Correct. Now let's move to banking, which is rated elevated. It doesn't sound as immediately catastrophic as the lights going out, but the fragility is insidious.
It's about logistics.
It paralyzes logistics. The NRP 2025 specifically calls out payment systems, like the Nanino platform. If a system like that gets breached, digital payments just stop. And that's 95% of all commerce now.
So for you in the Rogue Valley AO, think about it. No fuel purchases, no inventory reordering. The generator might have fuel, but the truck carrying the spare parts for it can't move because the driver can't pay for gas.
It's a total seizure of the supply chain. Which brings us to logistics itself, rated high. This really underscores the idea that computation is the new logistics.
We saw this coming even before React 2 showed.
We did. The sources point to the October 2025 AWS glitch. One failure in a cloud-native core took out 6.5 million websites.
I remember that.
Logistics depends on real-time data, tracking, routing, inventory. If React 2 shell lets an adversary poison that data, or just turn off the computation, the physical movement of goods stops instantly. In a hyper-optimized system, there are no buffers.
So, to quantify this risk of uncontrolled failure, the sources borrow a concept from epidemiology, which is just brilliant and terrifying. The R0 factor, the basic reproduction number.
Yeah, we're literally talking about the transmissibility of a digital plague.
So R0 tells us how many new systems get infected from a single infected system. If it's over 1, it spreads exponentially.
And if it's less than 1, the outbreak dies out.
So what are the current metrics for React 2 Shell's R0, specifically for critical infrastructure?
The initial estimates are shocking. The current R0 is somewhere between 1.8 and 2.2 for the highest value targets: energy, water, finance.
So every successful intrusion is creating nearly 2 new breaches on average.
On average. And the sources highlight that energy and water sectors can have an R0 as high as 2.5. And that's directly tied to low grid inertia.
Meaning there's no slack in the system.
No redundancy. Some systems are running with only 3% gas-fired redundancy. That's a major reason the utility space is so vulnerable to this exponential spread.
An R0 of 2.2 is bad enough. But the worst-case projection suggests this is actively getting worse.
It is, and this is the warning in the playbook. Without immediate, comprehensive, and accelerated analog mitigations, the R0 could climb to between 3.2 and 4.3 by mid-2026.
And why is it accelerating so fast?
2 reasons. First, the rise of AI automated attacks. AI can find and exploit these systems faster than any human defense team can react. And second, export commoditization.
It's for sale.
Exactly. Dark web bundles selling for $100,000 or more are putting state-level zero-day tools into the hands of, smaller hostile groups, transnational criminal organizations.
Which guarantees exponential spread. So the contagion's getting smarter, cheaper, and more widespread, and it's bypassing traditional defenses like web application firewalls.
Which the sources note are proving largely ineffective against this specific kind of attack.
That mathematical certainty of spread brings us to the actors themselves. We've established the fracture React2 shell. Now, who is using it, and how are they planning to bridge that gap from digital chaos to physical disruption? The kinetic snap.
The threat actors, these China Nexus groups, Earth Lumia, Jackpot Panda, UNC 6595, they are highly strategic. This isn't about smash and grab data theft. Their objective is strategic, long-term placement for sabotage.
And the main payload they're delivering through React2 shell is something called Noodle Rat. Internally, it's codenamed Angry Rebel. Tell us why this particular tool is so effective. The sources say it's designed for deception.
Noodle Rat is brilliant because it's the perfect distraction. It's a dual-purpose Linux backdoor. When it first gets into a system, it kicks off these low-level decoys, usually XMRIC miners, crypto mining.
So a standard security team sees a spike in CPU usage, they see crypto activity, and they file it under.
Routine cybercrime noise, or botnet activity. They're looking for a common thief.
While the real danger is quietly putting down roots.
Exactly. While the defenders are distracted by the mining decoy, Noodle Rat is simultaneously installing persistent, long-term backdoors. Things like Hasonic and Compood. These give them deep, stealthy access that survives reboots and even some patching attempts.
And the ultimate target of this whole operation is singular and critical. The data historian servers. This is the bridge from the IT world to the OT world, information technology to operational technology.
The data historian server is the system of record for industrial controls. It logs everything: temperature, pressure, valve status, power generation, grid frequency, everything. It's the nexus between the corporate network and the actual physical machinery.
So Noodle Rat's job is to get into the historian.
Brute force its way in. And once it's compromised, the adversary can not just read the data, they can write false data back to the system.
That's how they breach the air gap. It's an illusion. You don't need to physically plug something in if you can just lie to the server that tells the physical world what to do.
And the intelligence assessment on this is, it's truly chilling. The sources state, and I'm quoting here, the enemy is inside the corporate lobby. They are currently picking the lock to the control room.
Wow.
Once they control the historian, they own the physical environment. They can trigger shutdowns, manipulate processes, anything. This moves us completely from espionage to confirmed kinetic sabotage readiness.
And this threat model isn't just hypothetical. The sources cite validated precedents, things that have already happened as of late 2025 that confirm this is real.
The San Francisco blackout is the prime example. 130,000 customers lost power. Now, the official story was a substation fire, but the detailed SI trip analysis showed anomalous outages in other districts hours before the fire was visible.
Which suggests precursor digital manipulation. Maybe that HMI blind tactic to confuse operators before the physical event.
It strongly indicates it, yes. And then there's the OSP system blindness, which directly impacts our Rogue Valley AO and the I-5 corridor.
This is a major local intel point.
It is. There was a confirmed failure of the Law Enforcement Data System, LEDS. This is the system that gives real-time data to police statewide. It failed, forcing the Oregon State Police into manual voice-only logging.
Now, the source material calls this the failure of the digital shield.
Right. And without LEDS, law enforcement is basically flying blind, especially when it comes to tracking high-value, high-danger cargo. The explicit implication in the documents is that this failure provides a critical window for fentanyl WMD shipments to move undetected.
And even the highest levels of government aren't immune, as shown by that bizarre Matt Farley, the @RealMattMoney livestream incident.
It seems like a prank, but the fact that the main whitehouse.gov portal could be breached to inject unsanctioned third-party content, that confirms a systemic weakness.
If they can do that, they can certainly deliver a payload like Noodle Rat using React2 shell.
It's the highest level indicator that this contagion doesn't respect any firewall or political boundary.
So all of this, the vulnerability, the payload, the precedents, it's all aimed at one ultimate goal: the dark winter attack chain. A four-step plan to trigger a catastrophic failure of the entire Western power grid, the WECC.
And it's designed to be untraceable in the critical moments of failure by exploiting physics itself.
Okay, walk us through it. Step 1, the HMI blind.
The attackers get into the human-machine interfaces, the operator dashboards. But instead of flooding them with alarms, which operators are trained to spot, they freeze the dashboards to show all green.
So the operator thinks everything is fine while the system is actually dying.
It's crucial deception. It buys them the time they need to execute the next steps without anyone interfering.
Step 2, the frequency injection.
This is where Noodle Rat, or one of its backdoors, injects false data into the Automatic Generation Control System, the AGC. This system balances supply and demand on the grid. The adversary tricks the AGC into believing demand is low. The PM-EPT analysis predicts frigid nights, say 28 degrees Fahrenheit, in the Rogue Valley in December. Demand is actually sky high for heating. But the AGC is told it's low,
So it commands the power plants to scale down production.
deliberately inducing a massive supply shortage through digital deception, which leads immediately to step 3, the physics break.
This is where the real world takes over.
As supply plummets and demand stays high, the grid's natural frequency begins to drop uncontrollably. The critical physical threshold is 59.5 hertz. Once it drops below that, internal protective relays at every single power plant trip automatically to save the generators from being destroyed.
So the safety measure ironically becomes the trigger for the collapse.
It is the kinetic trigger, because when those plants trip offline to save themselves, their entire load gets thrown onto the neighboring plants that are still running.
Which instantly overloads them.
And they trip offline too. And that is step 4, the cascade. A rolling blackout engulfs the entire Western interconnection, dozens of states, all within minutes.
And the local analysis for Grants Pass shows the immediate, deadly aftermath.
It's explicit. The digital economy instantly collapses into a barter system. Emergency services are unpowered and can't respond to the inevitable house fires from people trying to stay warm, and the water treatment plant fails in 12 hours.
Creating a high risk of cholera and other diseases within 24 hours.
And the political climate makes it worse. The sources note the White House, the Trump administration, might stall federal aid, blaming blue state mismanagement, which creates the exact power vacuum these non-state actors are positioned to exploit.
Which is why the NRP 2025 mandates this self-reliance model in the first place.
It has to. There's no other option.
Okay, that was a chilling and necessary analysis of the threat. Let's pivot now, completely. If the national system is designed to fail, if this kinetic snap is inevitable, what is the blueprint for local survival? What does the National Resilience Playbook mandate?
The NRP 2025 lays out a 4-pillar framework. It's designed to ensure local operational continuity during a national fracture.
Let's start with Pillar 1, systemic visibility, or the all-seeing node. This sounds like an IT fix, but the sources frame it as something more. Sociological, logistical.
It is. It's about proactively mapping second and third order consequences. They call it infrastructure dependency primer logic, IDP. It means understanding that if sector A fails, it's not just A that's down. B and C will fail too because they depend on A.
The actionable example they cite is key here.
It's crucial, modeling how a logistics hub failure in Menford leads directly to a sanitation failure down in Cave Junction. The inability to move waste or purify water is a direct consequence of a digital supply chain failing miles away.
And that visibility dictates the trigger for defensive action.
The mandate is absolute. If you see an anomaly in a canary sector, a leading indicator like a frozen regional transmission organization energy trading portal, you must immediately and preemptively shift to island mode.
You don't wait for confirmation from a compromised national system.
You assume the breach, and you sever your local network from the national contagion to protect what's left.
Which brings us to Pillars 2 and 3, sovereignty and adaptive black start capability. This is the physical side of resilience, building the analog anchor.
Pillar 2 is layered sovereignty. It dictates the safety island model. The goal, explicitly, is for every community muster point, like the one in Grants Pass, to be an analog anchor.
Meaning complete operational continuity with no connection to the national cloud. Power, comms, logistics, everything.
Everything. And Pillar 3, adaptive black start, is how you achieve that. It's about independence from the just-in-time supply chain, and the absolute first priority is fuel.
This is where we get into those really specific analog details.
The mandate is to secure a strategic reserve of 500-plus gallons of gravity-fed diesel.
Why gravity-fed? That seems so specific.
It's an anti-fragility measure. Think about it. Modern fuel pumps are electric. In a full grid collapse, the electric pumps are the first thing to fail.
So you could have a full tank of diesel, but no way to get out to run your generator.
And your black start capability dies on the mine. Gravity-fed bypasses all digital and electrical dependencies. It's just simple, reliable mechanics.
And that same thinking dictates this strategic stockpile.
Absolutely. The mandate is to maintain hard-to-source analog components. We're talking manual electrical relays, high-frequency radio parts, non-digital spares. They are actively countering the vulnerability of complex supply chains by hoarding the simple, reliable parts that can't be digitally compromised.
And finally, Pillar 4, community synchronization, the Alethea network. If the power's out and the internet is compromised, how do you stop mass panic?
Because hostile actors thrive on panic and disinformation, this pillar is designed to counter their information operations. The action plan is to establish a peer-to-peer radio network, a truth channel that's completely independent of cellular or internet,
So it can't be compromised by React-2 shell.
or noodle rat. And the ultimate goal is to provide Alethea-grade information. The name comes from the Greek word for truth or unconcealment.
So it's about providing verifiable, reliable information to neutralize panic and disinformation, and to ensure the local population trusts the analog anchor, not the enemy's psychological operations.
That's the goal, a fortress of light in the chaos.
Okay, here's the convergence point. We're taking the global threat, React-2 shell, and the National Resilience Model, NRP 2025, and focusing it right down to your immediate area. The Rogue Valley, Southern Oregon. And the sources identify a unique and volatile local threat matrix.
The Rogue Valley is highly unique. The density of infrastructure choke points, the complex terrain, and the pre-existing presence of organized crime. It's a perfect storm for this cyberkinetic convergence.
Let's start with those non-state actors already embedded in the AO. The Chinese TCO's transnational criminal organizations, and the cartel hubs.
The intelligence confirms that the illicit cannabis mega-grows, specifically the ones around Merlin and throughout the Illinois Valley, are functionally sophisticated. They are not just grow houses.
They're off-grid logistics hubs.
They are. They have their own independent power, their own satellite communications. They can maintain full operational capability even when the local grid is dark. They are pre-positioned hostile staging grounds for personnel and material, ready to exploit the chaos.
And the sources have a stark designation for one of their primary weapons, fentanyl as a WMD.
It's an operational mandate. In this AO, aerosolized fentanyl is designated a weapon of mass destruction. It's used as a tactical area denial tool.
To neutralize first responders or create hot zones to cover their movements.
It's a low-tech, high-impact chemical defense. And when you look at the physical infrastructure, there's one high-probability target for sabotage.
The Rogue River Bridge.
The Rogue River Bridge connecting Merlin and Grants Pass. It is the single most critical choke point. If that bridge is severed, the I-5 corridor is broken and Merlin becomes an island. It forces all movement onto the river or very difficult back roads.
So to counter this, the operational blueprint establishes these resilience islands in key areas.
Right. Grants Pass is designated the Alamo. It's the primary hub, using the Josephine County Fairgrounds for its defensibility, anchored by that critical 500-gallon gravity-fed diesel reserve.
And Cave Junction is the frontier.
Its mission is different. It's focused on protecting local water access and running surveillance on those red zone illicit grows in the Illinois Valley. And the urgency is extreme. We said it before, but the Grants Pass water treatment plant fails in 12 hours. A cholera risk in 24. Water, not power, becomes the immediate existential threat.
Given that fentanyl WMD threat, the analog defense mandates are incredibly specific, and they override normal civilian procedures.
They are non-negotiable survival protocols. First, the fentanyl PSYOP. Teams are ordered to use biohazard quarantine signage, even if a threat isn't verified, as a defensive psychological operation to deter intruders.
It's a cheap, effective perimeter. And then there's the most difficult mandate. Personnel are ordered not to render aid directly to someone who collapses without trauma.
Correct. You must assume that any non-traumatic collapse is a WMD event. The risk of secondary contamination is too high. It's a complete inversion of civilian first aid doctrine, but it's necessary. You secure yourself first, then you assess.
And if you have to enter a potential hot zone, the Deacon protocol is mandatory.
It is a strict airlock procedure on re-entry, using a 10% bleach solution for neutralization. And critically, teams must stage Narcan naloxone as the immediate medical countermeasure.
Now let's bring it back to the root cause. The core technical defense against React-2 shell is also mandated here, the analog fallback.
This is island mode at the component level. It means physically disconnecting Ethernet cables from all non-essential HVC power and utility controllers.
You sever the digital link.
If the digital link is severed, the RCE capability from React-2 shell can't bridge the ITOT gap. It turns off the digital nervous system entirely and forces a reliance on manual local controls.
And all of this analysis, The TCOs, the WMDs, the need for isolation, it all leads to the core operational identity required in the Rogue Valley. The gray man posture for Aionios Vanguard personnel.
And this posture is a direct response to the adversary's TTPs. We have to cross-reference this with Volt Typhoon.
The Chinese state actor.
Right. Volt Typhoon and its variants, Salt, Flax, Velvet, are masters of living off the land. LOTL. They don't bring in custom malware. They use legitimate system tools and network access to blend in. They're digitally invisible.
So if the enemy's digital signature is invisibility blending in with the noise,
Then the friendly force's physical signature must also be invisibility to evade both digital profiling and physical detection.
the physical gray man protocol, low visibility, non-confrontation. And this necessitates the third side posture, which is a politically neutral mandate.
The sources are extremely specific on this. No militia displays. The focus is on sanctuary and non-escalation. The Aionios Vanguard must act solely as the redundant safety net. They cannot become an escalation factor.
Which means they have to actively deconflict with blue forces, the National Guard, state police, and green forces, local militias, tribal police, without using compromised digital communications.
Which brings us to the crux of our deep dive. We have to synthesize the 5 analog handshake procedures, the non-digital deconfliction mandates that ensure stealth and maintain that third side posture in the chaos.
Okay, let's lay them out. Number 1.
The analog fallback stance. Invisibility as the tactical signal.
If Volt Typhoon uses digital noise to hide, and React 2 Shell exploits all digital channels, then the only reliable signature of a friendly, uncompromised force is absolute digital silence.
This mandate says all AV personnel assume total radio and digital silence as their default gray man signature. No GPS, no phones, no unsecured radio chatter. Reliance is solely on physical maps, paper logs, and runners.
So invisibility becomes a tactical signal. If a sentry is chattering on an unsecured radio, they are, by definition, compromised or not following protocol.
Exactly. Okay, number 2, the Deacon Hot Zone Buffer. Leveraging WMD fear for deconfliction.
We talked about the fentanyl PSYOP as a defense. How does that signage become a deconfliction tool for a gray man trying to avoid a nervous National Guard patrol?
You use the chemical threat as a non-verbal buffer zone. That biohazard quarantine signage serves as an immediate, visible, non-verbal signal to all external forces, blue, green, gray, that the area is chemically hostile.
It says, stop, high-risk zone, do not enter without proper gear.
Right. It maintains the third side posture without a single word or a single weapon being shown, allowing the AV team to manage the perimeter discreetly.
Number 3, physical aletheia channel marking, bypassing compromised command and control.
The primary danger is false data, the HMI blind. So if a Blue Force commander is looking at a compromised digital map, how does the analog anchor signal its true status?
This links back to that Pillar 4 Truth channel.
It does. It requires deploying standardized, pre-agreed physical markers at the community muster points, non-electrical things. Color-coded panels, specific flag arrangements, maybe battery-powered light patterns known only to trusted partners.
So it signals all clear or high threat, bypassing the compromised digital C2 systems. It's a hardline visual confirmation of truth.
Exactly. Number 4, the non-escalation bridge watch protocol. Surveillance over show of force.
The Rogue River Bridge is the key target. It needs security, but that security has to be non-threatening to align with a third side mandate. An armed sentry looks like a militia display.
So the protocol mandates a surveillance-only posture at those choke points, using only hardline optical systems, scopes, binoculars, manual logs, and crucially, personnel are mandated to ensure no overt display of force. Weapons are concealed, postures are non-aggressive.
The focus is on recording activity, not challenging it.
Which drastically reduces the risk of accidental escalation with nervous blue or green forces who are operating under extreme stress.
Okay, and the 5th and final handshake.
Number 5, gravity-fed logistics signal. Physical confirmation of resilience.
So the functional status of the Grants Pass Alamo hub is critical intel for Blue Forces planning resource allocation. How do you communicate that physically?
You use the analog capability itself as the signal. The functional status of that gravity-fed diesel reserve is used as a physical coded indicator. If an outside force observes the mechanics of the diesel flow, if the reserve is actively running generators with no visible electrical pumps.
It's physical confirmation that the hub is self-sustaining, operating in true island mode.
It's a physical verification of black start capability that requires zero vulnerable digital transmission. It confirms their reliability as a safe harbor.
This deep dive has really confirmed a profound paradigm shift required by the NRP 2025. This wasn't just about a cyber threat. It was an analysis of how a digital contagion React 2 shell forces a comprehensive return to physical analog competence.
The digital threat mandates the gray man protocol and analog ingenuity. And for the Rogue Valley AO, the stakes are clearly defined. The goal of the Aionios Vanguard is to function as that redundant safety net.
And the quantified risk is unambiguous.
It is. While a full regional grid cascade is calculated as a relatively low 8% probability, the probability of a localized IT breach sufficient to create operational chaos and blindness is high, a 42% risk.
But that chaos is the window the adversaries are waiting for, from Volt Typhoon to the TCOs.
The entire resilience framework, from the gravity-fed diesel to the 5 analog handshakes, is designed specifically to deny the adversary the kinetic snap they're looking for.
The true measure of success for this framework is its ability to operate unseen, unheard, and uncompromised, maintaining that third side posture till the storm passes.
Stay vigilant.
And so we'll leave you with this final provocative thought to explore on your own. Given the confirmed systemic failure of the Oregon State Police's Digital Shield LEDS, and the critical reliance now placed on manual, voice-only logging for police operations, what are the cascading social and legal implications of a state law enforcement agency being forced into a mandated, completely analog existence? When the digital chain of custody just disappears and paper records become the only verifiable truth, how does the entire system of justice adapt to the kinetic snap? We'll leave you to mull that over. Until next time, stay safe. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Hear, O Israel, our Lord God is one. You shall love your God with
all of your heart, mind, soul, and might.
Likewise, love your countrymen as yourself.
This is the summation of law. Execute.